So any of the times when you're writing your project, see, anything that you do no will be coming under projects. What kind of projects do I mean? It'll be mainly like you're having a let's say you're building a robot. Okay, that is a project. You are working on a study to find out like you're working on a survey, right? And then you are going to do something with this survey. So that is also an example of a project. You are working on a curriculum project based on your course that you're taking right now because your professor has asked you to do so. That is also a project. Okay, you are working on a lab project and you're working on extending a bigger lab project. Okay, that is also a project. So there are many different projects. So if you want to know more about what are projects and the things, I would request you to look at some of the sessions before and we'll point you to that as well. But projects are something that are very important. So you want to always keep it as bullet points and not paragraphs. This is not an essay. This is a CV. Okay, keep very small characters, have a logical flow and start with an action word. So let's see this in action. Okay, I want you all to think about it. Baked a loaf of bread. I combined ingredients, put it into a cake pan and put it in the oven. Took water, wheat flour, oil, yeast, water. Now, can you guys quickly tell me like what is the order in which I would have done things? Can you tell me like what would be the order? So for example, I want you to tell me the order can be, you can tell me, is it 1, 2, 3 or is it, what is it? What is the order? Okay, so can you quickly like type it in your chat? So what is it that we want to do? So this is just a very simple example of logical flow. So majority of you are saying 3, 2, 1, right? So majority of you are saying, hey, this should be the actual number 1, and then this should be 2, and this should be 1, right? So what did I do? I took wheat flour, oil, yeast, water. Then I combined the ingredients, put it in a cake pan, put it in the oven, blah blah blah. Then I baked a loaf of bread, right? That's all it is. So it's as simple as that. But you will be sorry. This should be a 3. My bad. So, but the thing is, sometimes this can also be a 1. When this can be a 1, because see, what is my goal? My goal is to bake. This can also be what we call as the goal state. My goal is to bake a loaf of bread. Okay, so for that, what did I did? I took wheat pan and oil and yeast and water. Then I combined the ingredients and then put it into this one. So this can also be like this, right? So let me just also probably show you quickly. So this part can be 1, and then this part becomes 2, and this part can be 3. When the first sentence is presented as a goal statement. Okay, is that kind of okay for most people? So I want to say, hey, I want to bake a loaf of bread. That's my goal. What did I do? I took wheat flour, oil, yeast, water. Then what did I do? I did the steps and I got it. At the end of the day, what I did, I baked a loaf of bread. So that is also another way to think about this thing. But this is all what we call as logical flow. Anything that you're writing in a project has to have a logical flow. All right. So with that in mind, we have a lot of other things that we want to take up right now. So what should be the order? We have already discussed this. So in terms of writing a project, keep in mind there's a goal, there's some way of how do you read it, and there are some results. All right, so that's always the case. So then how do you write the projects better in your CV or your resume is what is it that you did? Okay, what was the goal for it? That's one thing. The second thing is why was it necessary for you to have done it? So that is the context. It gives us the context. Okay, and how did you do it? Is a step of how, right? The most important step of how. Okay, and then the results. Most of the times, if I do not have the space, what will I write? See, this is exactly what happens in a resume. Resume, you don't have a lot of space, only one page. So what will you write? If you do not have the step, which one will you keep from this lot? Like you don't have space for writing too much, what will you keep? Okay, so if you do not have the space, at the end of the day, you're always going to talk about the impact. Okay, so the impact of whatever you did has to be always there. So this is a constant. If you have a little bit more space, then what happens? You will write like tell us what you did. If you have a little bit more space, you're going to tell how you did it also. If you have more space, you're going to tell us why was it necessary by giving a context to it. All right, so this is like something that depending on the space. Okay, what happened? Write the projects was based on these aspects. So depending on the space, we always want to highlight the results. If we have more space, we're going to keep the goal and the results. If you have a little bit more space, we're going to talk about the goal, how we did it, and the results. And if we have a little bit more space, we'll talk about the goal, give a brief context, and then this one. So let's look at the projects. Example of a project. So keep in mind that you always have a goal, how, and the results, right? Majority of the time. So take your time for reading this. This is an online library management. It's a very, I will say, simple example. Super simple example. Doesn't matter. Anyone doesn't have to be from the same field. Anybody will understand. So this project, online library management system, it was a web app developed for the university library management system to access the books and allot the particular student in a user-friendly manner and so on. So this is what it is. It is a web application. Okay. It is designed front end using blah 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 blah. So this is what someone is telling how they did it. PHP is used as the server side scripting for processing. They all again are telling how they did it, and it's compatible with any browser. So that's all it is. So this is a project that you might have done, okay, in your first year or second year and so on. How do you write this project right now in your CV? That's a question that we'll answer now. See, the first one is the context. It tells us like what is the purpose of the online library management system? Why was it developed? So that is the purpose. The compatible with any browser is like a feature, and then designed using front end and designed using PHP etc. is an implementation step. And of course, web application is a feature. See, this is the whole feature of it. I developed a web application. It could have been a mobile application. It could have been anything else, right? And so on. So when we look at all this, we now have to create this in this manner. What is the goal? How did we do it? What are the results? Okay, take a moment quickly and try to answer this in terms of how do you want to write it in your resume. So there is always a title that appears. There's a title of the project. There are some dates which are very important as well. The dates tell us like from when to when the project was done, how long was it done. So looks like a bigger project, but in terms of results, probably the person may not be able to like achieve more or something, and so on. Okay, so this is something that we quickly look at. All right, so let me help you with the thing. Okay, for a project like this, the length of the project will depend on the complexity of the project. Okay, so we start with an action word. We say, hey, develop a web application. Okay, so what is it? It is for the library management system. How did the person do it? Using all this. Okay, do I need to say that it's very user friendly? Probably not. That is more context. Do I have to say how it is accessing? It is accessing by giving it and allocating it to a student and all that. You see, when we know library management, we all know that's what it does, no? Like it is used for getting books, sending it to certain people. So we know the function of a library management system. No need to write it. Web application is the most important one, right? And see, here also it is repeated. Okay, and then like how did I do it? I did using this. Okay, do I need to write it's compatible with any HTML browser? Probably not necessary right now. All right, so that's how it is. So the length of the project will depend on the complexity of the project and how much do you want to keep. Okay, but when you're writing it in a CV or a resume, it's going to be very concise and it's going to only talk about the key stuff. Okay, while really focusing on the highlights and the results. All right, so this is probably how you're going to write it. Okay, so now that you know how to write one of the things, we are going to look at each of these in the self assessment. All right, as I said, start with an action word and then concisely explain exactly what you've done. Right, that's something that's there. So any of the projects, be it your thesis, your study, your term paper, or any of the ones that I mentioned, can be written in this manner. Internships can also be written in this manner. So this is something that you will it is very useful for you. So the moment you learn how to write these bullet points and everything else, it becomes easy. You have a certain way of implementation and then you have a certain result. Majority of the times you may not have a result immediately. Perfectly fine. All right, so now see, how long is your current CV for majority of you? So that is also an indication. See, if you are really keen on graduate school and especially a technical program, you might want to have it beyond certain level, right? So 3 or 4 pages by doing so many projects and so on. So that might be something that you want to consider taking up. like participating in a lot of technical competitions, participating in a lot of poster presentations, or your conference presentations, or such things. So those are also very, very valuable. There was a reason why I wanted to show the research experience and then come back to it. Okay. Okay, fine. So let's go back to our the CV that we are working on, and I will show you the thing. So what is needed for the um, so look at this. So here, research interest will be something very specific. Like example, I want to do machine learning. Okay, I want to become specialized in child psychology. Okay, like that. So it'll be very specific subjects. You're going to only talk about few things. You're not going to talk about everything in the world. Okay, so you might be interested in many things, but you're going to mention only few things that are there in the things. So typically, anything about 3 to 4 can be mentioned. Coursework taken is nothing but subjects that you have taken in your undergraduate field of study, which are relevant to the program. So, example, if I say machine learning, then I'm going to probably say that hey, probability and statistics is something that I have done. All right. Then I'm going to also say that I had a course in deep learning. Okay, then I'm going to also say that I took like a Python programming course. So it can be Python programming and then deep learning. Then it can be very specifically, it can be, it can also be like artificial intelligence, for example. So these are example of certain courses that I've taken in my undergraduate course, which are relevant to machine learning. All right. So if I want to talk about child psychology, I don't know like exact subjects right now, but I'm saying I can talk about relevant courses which are there. All right. So if I want to talk about say like structural engineering, then I'm going to talk about those aspects with respect to that. All right. So that is the thing. So again, this need not be in bold. You can just like unbold it, and then this particular part. So that is the coursework and everything else that you guys will be taking into account right now. Okay, so I hope that's clear. So let's quickly look at the other things that are there in your research experience. So in your research experience now, what is it that you have? So if you have like a project, see for example, you can always talk about what is the project, and then how did you do it, and then what did the project get, right? So something of that sort. So all right, so let's quickly look at this one. Oh, everybody will be having an undergraduate project later on. That is your major project, that's your final year project. Sometimes you might have two undergraduate projects, depending upon your college. Everybody might have an independent internship project. Most of you might have a capstone project based on your Coursera certifications and all that. Even career labs advanced courses have their capstone projects, right? And then you might also definitely have your course projects which you're supposed to do as part of your curriculum. You can also take up on other research projects and so on, right? So based on this, figure out like what is it that you have or what is it that you'll end up taking, because that's the main part of it. See, these days, part-time work experience has become very popular. If you're doing a full-time, I mean, like if you're doing like a job before your degree, it typically comes under part-time work experience or worst case internship. Okay, it cannot be considered as full-time job. But on the other hand, let's say that you had a gap. You finished your 12th standard and then you had a gap and then you started your college. During the time you worked, that will be considered full-time work only, right? Like depending on certain situations. All right, cool. Now, this part I think is very clear to most majority of you right now. So we can quickly move forward to the other VC aspects of it. So then now see, once this is done, there's not anything much left. As simple as that. And as we said, we already looked at the EC part earlier. So we are all done with all the other EC part. So the only other aspect right now would be internships. So internships, what happens? Typically, they also have like a responsibilities and other things that you do in an internship. See, the one thing that you need to keep in mind is format is not everything. When you look at a CV, immediately you think of like, oh, I need to put a photo, I need to put this, and so on. What we tell you is, in fact, like we give you like a Career Labs content template. Ours is I would say, is one of the most boring looking templates, but it is the effective template and the best template for someone who wants to work on content. After you work on this content, you can put it into any formatting that you want, any page design that you want. All right. So perfectly fine. So you don't have to worry too much about it. But this is a content template, so please be aware of it. That's a content template. So anytime that you're writing anything, it is about saying, hey, this is a problem, this is a solution, this is a result. Take the baking the bread example. Okay, you can't combine the ingredients without knowing what the ingredients are, right? So there has to be a logical flow to your way that you're writing. And please focus on readability. Don't give me some random words and other things and all that. And make sure that everything that you've done is now highlighted in the project. So that's why we're giving you that self-assessment questions for you to go through and also to learn which one is the right way and how to write it. Okay. And of course, we're there to help you personally also for that. Now, here comes the question, whether you are in the techno managerial program or this one, right? So technical CV, no restrictions on the pages, no restrictions on formatting most of the times. So if you have if you're going to any of the MS or any of those other programs, this is what you're going to probably use. When you're going for a techno managerial program, sometimes they need a one-page resume, sometimes they're okay with a two-page CV. All right, so I've already shown you how to do it. There's another handout which I would want you guys to look at. The handout is like, how do you make a one-page resume from the CV, right? That's something that's there. And then the next one is going to be the managerial resume. So managerial is for your MBA, MIM, and I told you, right, MS in finance, etc. All the other finance, marketing, SCM, etc., etc., etc. So all of these kind of courses, you need a one-page resume only. All right, so this is the thing. So resume, what happens is very concise, highlights your exact skills that you want to showcase for that program, and then who you are. That's it, right? So it's like more like a condensed version of who you are, right? That's it.